Vic, how's it
Hey,
going?
it's going well. All is well in the land of milk and honey.
You're
My
breaking up. That doesn't
friend.
signify all being well. You're breaking up.
Am I breaking up?
You
Uh
are breaking
oh.
up.
How about now? I'm still breaking up. Uh oh. Wow. Oh man.
You're definitely breaking up.
I'm breaking up.
Yes. But I just want to, as we know, we might as well deal with it up front. It is Friday before election. The election is on Tuesday. All of this, everything will be done on Tuesday as far as, the voting and with voters and all that goes. So on Tuesday, people can hopefully expect to stop being spammed via text message, via email, just television wise, with all of this election stuff. Like we can stop getting the hey, so and so, like they know you. This is so and so from such and such, and we just want to make sure you vote for so and so. Or did you know I just literally just got a text message from someone like, "Oh, hey, this is this person from this organization. Did you know that this person in your house hasn't voted yet?" What person in my house? What are you talking about? And more importantly, why are you texting me about them? Text them. Like you go tell them to vote. But I think at this point, people have made like a fun game out of responding to it because, and I get it. I get the need for them to make sure that everyone is getting out there, exercising their voice and making sure that their vote is heard. But it's just like, we're waiting on Tuesday. Everybody's waiting on Tuesday. You can't watch anything on television. You can't watch anything on YouTube without a election commercial interrupting. So I'm sure everyone is ready for Tuesday. But the good thing is, in the state of Michigan, you do not have to wait until Tuesday to vote. You can vote every single day up until election day, including Sunday. So, if you want to forego the long lines that are more than likely going to happen because we are in the middle of a pandemic and everybody can't just be inside of the building. So, if you want to forego all of that, you can. You have the option to. If you have your ballot and you just want to go drop it off at your local clerk's office, you can do that. You have the option to. I would not try to mail it in at this point. It's over. It's 11th hour. Just drop it off. But yeah, you can go drop it off yourself in person and take care of that. But Tuesday is upon us. It's this is the Friday before the election, and so I said, if nothing else, we here at Whose Opinion Is It Anyway? We have to talk about it. I think the biggest thing, that I want to start off with, and I'm not sure where Mike is, but he does have the link and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing that I wanted to start off with is that no matter what the outcome is, when the smoke clears on November 4th, um, this country will still have some picking up the pieces to do, that we'll still have to figure out how do you unite the United States of America that is clearly not united right now. We'll have to figure out, say, the smoke clears election day and Trump is still the president. While he did not cause the pandemic, he certainly did not do a good job of protecting us from the pandemic, or do a good job of cleaning up the mess that comes with it. And so when the smoke clears on November 4th, if he is victorious, again, while you cannot blame him for starting the pandemic, he certainly has to answer as to how he is going to clean up the economic mess that has come with this pandemic, how to clean up the healthcare mess that has come with this pandemic. There are things that are going to have to be addressed on November 4th, And then the same thing with Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, if he is victorious, while you cannot blame him for the pandemic, because obviously it didn't start here, and while you can't blame him for the mess that we are in, we are going to be looking to him to clean it up, because at that point it is now your responsibility to clean it up. And so no matter what happens on November 3rd, November 4th, true leadership has to show up and take place. What do you think about that, Vic?
Heartedly. I think that, as you aptly pointed out, no matter what happens, there's a lot of picking up the pieces that have to be done in America, whether it's done by Joe Biden or Donald Trump. But I think that moving into this election, as the hours drawing nigh, I think this race is closer than many people think it is. This race is close. I know that upwards to 80 million Americans have already voted via early voting.
Hmm.
However, I think that even though the polls are suggesting that Joe Biden is in the lead, I think this race is a bit closer than people are suggesting. But I do like the fact that they're being aggressive. They're running through the tape. Unlike what Hillary Clinton did in 2016, the Biden Harris team, hey, they're going to hit. They're going to be on the campaign trail in this area tomorrow. As you know, they're going to be campaigning up and down the I-75 corridor, and I think that's a smart move. They have to do this. In fact, both parties are crisscrossing this nation, and they're literally passing one another in these different battleground states. But to go back to your original question, yes, there's a lot of picking up the pieces that's going to happen. And there's some questions that leadership is going to have to ask itself as it looks into the gulf, into the abyss, which is American society right now, with regard to how bitterly divided politically and racially this country is. No question about that. I don't think this country can survive another 4 years under this level of divisiveness.
I think that's quite clear that we can't keep going at this pace. You know,
Mm-hmm.
things can't keep happening this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just from the plot to kidnap elected officials
Yes. Yes.
to people being afraid to go vote because you're worried about who's going to be standing there with a gun. I mean, even
Yes.
to the point where here in Michigan, our lawmakers had to vote at gunpoint. I
Mm-hmm.
just think that there's just so much of this that we have to really examine of how do you come back from that? How do you change it? What do you do? What
Mm-hmm.
what needs to happen
Mm-hmm.
for this country to come back together? And more importantly, can it happen? Can it happen?
Yes.
How do you November 4th look the people in the face that have openly disagreed with you in ways that you might feel like how, I can't talk to you anymore, but you're still
Mm-hmm.
my neighbor. Or I don't want to be around you anymore, but we still work in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know what I'm saying? And what does this do for each side, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the people who are proclaiming that uh, Trump being president has emboldened them to believe that a race war is necessary? Like, do they move forward with this? Like, what happens? What
Yes.
happens with the groups that are causing issues and that are threatening lives? What happens with all of that?
Absolutely, Candace. And I think that both parties, no matter what the outcome is, no matter whether the Dems win or the GOP wins, there's some schisms within both of those camps as well, right? Like, for instance, if you look at the Democratic Party, you have the Biden camp, obviously, but you also have the Bernie camp, right? I mean, you have a number of different camps that exist. Even as it relates, and I've been beating this drum for uh, the last few months, you even have black men who are raising questions as it relates to the viability of continually voting for the Democratic Party. And I think no matter what happens, even if the Dems win, I think that the Dems are going to have to answer those questions. They're going to have to address that constituency comprised of persons who primarily were Democrats and voted
Mhm.
wholeheartedly Democratic for the Democratic Party. But now they're beginning to raise questions as it relates to the viability of continually voting for that party. But in like manner, the Republican Party has to address some schisms as well.
I
Obviously, you
think
have the Trump supporters, but you also have your classical conservatives who are not forever Trumpers, who have developed the Lincoln Project, and they've turned their backs on the Republican Party at least for this go around, and they're voting for they
oh, I think we lost Vic. We told him not to travel and try and speak or whatever, or travel and try and go live. So hopefully we'll get him back in here. But I think that he was raising some pretty good points about no matter what happens, it seems as though both parties are going to have to figure out how to rebuild and reconnect, because in both parties there were also you found some schisms, you found some breaks in both parties. Like Vic was pointing out, that in the Republican Party you had people who were, just going to be Republicans no matter what. They were going to roll with the party no matter what. You have those Republicans that they were referring to as Trump's Republicans. And then you have those people who were anti-Trump who stepped away from voting with the Republican Party for the first time ever in their lives. And so now what the Republican Party is going to have to figure out is how do they uh, rebuild? How do they recapture those that they've lost? Those who said that, you know what, the things that have happened during this cycle it was too far for me. This was a line for me. So now I think that as they think about coming back together, because you have people that are Republican and are supporting Biden simply because they cannot support what Trump is doing. They do not believe what he's doing is correct. And so now you have to wonder of, if you see a Trump victory, will they fold back into the party or do they just leave altogether? What happens then? Because I don't believe that their beliefs or any of that is going to change. And so do they do like the Tea Party and kind of form their own little section there, or do we get a new party? What happens? Like, do we end up with a third party? Hey, Vic, welcome back. And I was just examining a little bit more of what you were saying of how both
Mhm.
parties, no matter what happens, both parties are going to be charged with rebuilding their parties. And I started with the Republican Party, and I was just simply saying you had those who were just die hard for the party anyway, meaning they are going to vote Republican no matter what. Then you had those who were considered Trump's Republicans, they were Trumpsters, and they were going to roll with him no matter what. And then you had those who were considered anti-Trumpsters, still Republicans though, still hold fast to their Republican beliefs. They just feel like he's gone too far and he's reached a line. And so the question becomes, do they all come back together if there's a Trump victory? Or do those who chose to leave because they feel like he's gone too far, do they stay gone? Are they just, I think I lost Vic again, I'm not sure. Or do they go ahead and open and you start their own party? The same with when the smoke clears with the Democrats. And say, first let's do it this way, since we have to examine it all around, right?
Mhm.
Let's first examine what happens to the Republican Party if there's a Trump victory. And you
Oh.
have those Republicans who, like you said, even the Lincoln Project, those Republicans who feel like he's gone too far and he's a danger to our
Mhm.
country. Do you think that they will fold back in? Because some people do concede the power. Some people concede the power, Vic. We know it happened.
True,
Or
true.
some people might try to go back and get on the good side. Or do you think that they just completely tear themselves away? And is that the beginning of a third party? Or is that the beginning of, what does that look like? What do you think, Vic?
That's an interesting point, Candace, because before I left you guys for a few minutes, I was making the point that Michael Steele, who is a former chairman of the Republican Party, has announced that he's going to back Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think about that, Candace. Here you have the former chair of the Republican Party who is placing his support firmly behind Joe Biden. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing. And I think to your point, I don't see the likes of a Michael Steele or those persons who are members of the Lincoln Project going back in the event in lieu of a Trump victory. I don't see them going back to the Republican Party for another 4 years. And as you pointed out, they might very well form their own party. I can see something like that happening. Absolutely. I can see that happening.
Right.
And let's make another
Mm-hmm.
point here. Since we're theorizing, Candace, Sean Puffy Combs is announcing that he's starting a third party. There have been people who have been talking about this. I'm glad you're here, Mike. Sean Combs is launching this idea of launching a third party, a black political party. And there have been persons who've been talking about this. You can go
And
back to
before we get
1972
to that,
in Gary, Indiana.
but before we get to that, I want to stay where we are in examining what happens to the Republican Party if, in the event there is a Trump victory. Of do they stay divided, or do they come back together? Because one of the things that Mike says all the time is that people will concede to power. They will. They'll go back and be on the winning team because that's the winning team, and they'll act as if they never left the winning team. Or do you believe that they really feel like this is too far and he is tearing this country up? Like, do you really believe that they believe what they're saying? And so, in the interest of what they feel will save this republic, will they stay away from the Republican Party?
I think some of them, Candace, will. But go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Where do they go?
So yeah, where would they go? And that's the issue. Listen, Puffy, P. Diddy, or P. Daddy, whatever he calls himself now, right, is in the same realm with a lot of these other individuals. They have lost touch with their roots as they exploit what their roots are all the time, right? Can y'all hear me? So on many times, many occasions, these individuals use their blackness and
There's
their.
an echo somewhere.
Say that again.
There's an echo somewhere.
Yeah, I got echoes going on myself. They use their blackness as a card to gain notoriety, to gain income and a following. And so I want to also pivot back to Kanye West for a second with this. I don't know if y'all mentioned Kanye West yet. Kanye West is still running for president. Did you know that, right? These are the trappings of the want to be in the place of the master's space, right? Wanting approval from them. So we talk about, Brother Vic, you talk about a third party and things of that nature. America, by its very nature, is not really set up for a third party, because whatever parties are available absorb the context and the movings of that particular party or that particular mind state. This is why after 1965, the Republicans swung so hard to the Southern strategy, because the Democrats just happened to be at the time trying to do the right thing. I think if it would have been a Republican in office and he saw cities burning and they panicked, we could all be Republicans today. But we end up being Democrats, right? As black folks. FDR moved, the swing moves, and the pendulum moves. Martin Luther King trying to work with the Democrats who had been in office at the particular time, because Republicans were in the wilderness in the late 50s and 60s. After Ike and after some of the other people running for president, being president or vice president. So then, as Johnson comes in the fore, we see the Voting Rights Act get passed, and we swing that way. And then the right wingers, instead of being Dixiecrats, said, "Hey, we're done." And here comes a person named Nixon, and then Reagan, who embodied this, the California style, the let's all be free, carry our guns, and we have to protect ourselves. And this is carried on to today. The Republicans who are right wingers right now really have nowhere else to go. And the party itself, in my opinion, and from what I'm thinking, is going to burn itself down or be recreated after Trump, right? Back into the staunch tax, no taxes, gun protection, Second Amendment type of party that it was under Mitch McConnell or Mitt Romney or John McCain. It'll swing back to that thing because they're in the wilderness now. If we get a blue tsunami, now we don't get a blue tsunami. Let's say Trump goes and they still keep the Senate, and in 2022, see, we talk about 2020, but 2022 would tell it all. If we forget what's going on now, and in 2022 we don't come out, and Republicans get another wave a la 2010, we were going to be back in this situation again, because they're going to talk about fiscal responsibility and all the things Republicans have been talking about, minus Trump. They're going to go back to what they were, and then people are going to say they've changed, and they're going to go back to them, and they'll be loving them all over again. And whoever the new Republican is, it'll probably be a white woman, somebody coming from the South who they can relate to. If what's her name from Alaska, Sarah Palin, were doing her right thing and not messing around with Glenn Rice, they'd still be with her now. She would be the heir to the party, so to speak. In that realm. So I don't see Puffy can do what he wants to. He didn't have as much money as Ross Perot. He can start a party if he wants to, but these people are too damn cheap to really start their own party. Puffy ain't gonna do it. Ice Cube ain't gonna do it. It costs too much money because the Democrats or the Republicans will just co-opt your message and suck it into their own thing.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying, and that's cool. But I was trying to stick to the smoke clears election day. You had all these Republicans who jumped ship. They jumped ship, and Trump is president again. What happens to them?
That's what I'm saying. They're going to just go act like Trump never existed if it's a landslide election. They're going to act like they never. In 2022, they won't be mentioning Trump, just like in 2000, Al Gore wouldn't mention Clinton. It'll be the same way. Same way.
Okay. And so, same thing. We were talking before you showed up late, Mike. Boy, I tell you, this is a job, you'd be fired.
I had to meditate, Candace.
But we posed the same question of the smoke clears. And you have Joe Biden is now, former Vice President Joe Biden is now the president. Now you have to keep in mind that the Democrats are facing the same issue as the Republicans of you have a lot of unhappy people that are Democrats and they're unhappy with the party. We see that even in the case of the squad. We see that when we talk about how Black people feel the Democratic Party treats them. You have some of your LGBTQ community feel like they are left out at times as well. And so now that you have all of these little tears here, or let's talk about the progressives. The progressives in the Dem party feel like they are completely left out and not being heard by the moderate Dems. And so what happens now, the smoke clears, Joe Biden is now president, but you have this party with these gripes. What happens?
Let me chime in here. Let me chime in here, y'all.
Okay.
Let me chime in now. I think that is the ultimate scenario facing particularly Joe Biden. Because as you aptly pointed out, Candace, in as far as the Democratic Party is concerned, you have a number of different sectors in the Democratic Party. You have the moderates or the centrist, which Joe Biden represents. To be honest with you, he's a centrist, right? You have the progressives. You have the Bernie people who are among the most vocal progressives in the Democratic Party, and then of course you have the squad that represents another part of the progressive party within the Democratic Party. So I think that Joe Biden is going to be walking a political tightrope because he's going to have to try to play to a number of different groups here. And as we pointed out before, you're not going to, when you lead like that, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy. I mean, he's going to, I think he knows this. I think he knows this. I think he's going to be methodical in terms of trying to address the concerns and the needs and the wants and desires of these different groups, right? But he's got, it's going to be a tough act. And then, as we pointed out earlier, Mike, beyond the Democratic Party, right, there's some healing that he's going to have to try to take part in or to engender across the aisle. Because
he's already doing that. He's already doing
that. I think that the forever Trumpers, you're not going to be able to satisfy them. There's nothing that Biden will be able to do that is going to satisfy the forever Trumpers, because the forever Trumpers are beyond a political party.
I agree.
This is a culture. This is a cultural undertaking.
It's a cult. It's a cult.
Need I make this point? You guys have seen this. You've been following the news. In Tampa, Florida, there were persons who were passing out. They were suffering heat strokes. They were fainting. Some persons were having seizures and whatnot, right? In the middle of his rally, right? But then over in I believe it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
In the cold of that evening,
Right.
there were boatloads of persons who were left behind. Right, the buses
That's
didn't
right.
come to pick them up. People were suffering frostbite and things of that nature. So we have to ask
Right.
ourselves the question: who would put themselves in harm's way? Look,
Right.
these persons are packed into these rallies. They're not practicing social distancing. They're
Nope.
not wearing masks. This is a
Mm-hmm.
different mindset
Oh,
altogether. And I have
yeah.
to say this. I have to say this, Mike. I think there's a bit of an enthusiasm gap between the Republicans, the forever Trumpers, and the Dems. Now, I will say this, and I said this early on, Mike, before you came back to the show. I like what Biden is doing in that he's finishing strong. He's running straight through the tape. He intends to do
Yeah.
that, obviously, because he's been crisscrossing this country.
Yeah.
He's been hitting the battleground states. He's going to be back in this area tomorrow. He and President Obama are going to be traveling up and down the I-75 corridor, and they've got to
That's
do
right.
this. So I think this race is close. Even though some
Yeah.
polls suggest that he's upwards to 10 points ahead of Trump,
Yeah.
some say maybe
Yeah.
8%. I would say maybe cut that in half, cut the 8.5. He might have a
Mm-hmm.
4-point lead. I think it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be pretty close coming to the
Yes.
finish.
Yes. Yes. Well, look, I love your metaphor as a track star yourself, Professor Vic, talking about running through the tape, and
Mm-hmm.
that was something Hillary didn't do because,
Mm-hmm.
history is mindset. She thought everything would be fine because the polls were telling her whatever, and you can't
Yeah.
believe these polls. See,
Mm-hmm.
I know how Republicans and stuff think sometimes. They'll get a poster on the phone and tell them they're a Democrat and they're supporting Hillary or the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party. And you're right; these people are cultists, right? You said a culture, but it is a cult at this point. Now, let me speak about this too. Trump, with his ego being bruised, if he finds out that he won't be prosecuted, if all the charges get dropped and everything about what's going on, then he's going to start his own movement, right? Pulling the Republican Party to the left, or making sure that he keep money flowing. See, Trump has got to keep Melania happy, or whatever new chick he gets happy at the end of the day, right? He's got to keep that together, and he can only do that with a whole bunch of money or the illusion of a whole bunch of money, right? So when he
Mm-hmm.
leaves office, let's say everything happens, he leaves office, he's going to be fighting and moving that movement. If Alex Jones can have a movement, surely Donald Trump can have a movement, right? But one of the other pieces of this, one of the other pieces of this that I find fascinating is that you're right. Joe Biden's going to have a tough time keeping all of the puff daddy people who really ain't for us, or some of the other folks who act like they're really down with us, who really are socialists at heart, right? They really want to they want to defund the police. They want to get rid of the police altogether, and we have to fight those people in our community. Candace will tell you about some of the arguments we've had with people in our community who want to argue about not going forward, but always battling the fights that we've had in the past, right? And not moving forward as a people, as a black people. I always tell Candace, for me, everything goes back to slavery.
Hey Paul, can you mute Vic's mic when he's not talking? Because I think that's where the feedback is coming from.
Okay, yeah, I have some feedback too. I just ran through the tape with the feedback, Candace. I was just running through the tape. Whatever. I'm just keep rolling. But there we go. Okay, we don't have it now. So when you got the Democratic Party in a turmoil, so to speak, I don't want to make that an issue, because once, let's say Biden wins, the next thing we're going to be talking here already 6 months from now, because the media loves a race, right? It's 2022. Who's up for 2022? And then 2024. That is Don Jr.'s son gonna run? Is somebody else gonna run? Who's the new Sarah Palin or whatever? All of this is about to bubble over and bubble up, and all of them are gonna be taking over the Republican Party, the radicals they have, because they think they got a foothold. Well, they do have a foothold. And our people, some of the BLM people or the so-called Antifa folks, who really are about deconstructing political parties, right? They're not about getting with political parties, but they will have some of the individuals who will come in and blow up the
I
and
want
so
to.
that's gonna be problematic. Look, history is we're gonna lose in 22 again, and we'll be right back in the same boat as Democrats if this happens. We'll be in the
I
same boat
want
again.
to really quickly go to some of the comments. I do want to just cut through some of the bottom ones, but basically, Hometown Hero said the root of the issue is that blacks vote 90 to 95% Democrat every election, and you don't see a problem with it. Hometown Hero, you saying black like you're not black. You're not black this week. There isn't a single ethnic group anywhere who votes so lopsided one way. There's no way black folks are studying the issues and coming up with their own opinion when that is the voting statistics. Everybody is raised differently and educated differently, and for everybody to come to the same conclusion speaks to indoctrination. Commission, yeah, it is a shame, actually, Hero. And Hometown Hero also said, and what's worse is that every time a black person goes Republican they are treated like crap by their fellow blacks. Oh God! First of all, what black person says blacks and stuff like that? I don't.
Right. Yeah. I don't hear no us and we up in there. So I don't know where he's coming from. Yeah. We don't talk like that, Hometown Hero.
But what I do want to say, I do want to say that that whole there's no way black people are studying or on these issues, or it speaks to indoctrination. I'm gonna say I disagree with that comment. I think that as someone who literally studies this, for me, I cannot vote for Donald Trump because of the way he moves, the things he says, and the hate. I've always said from the beginning, he lost me at calling Mexicans rapists and murderers. I didn't want to hear anything else after that. This country doesn't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that kind of conversation. We don't need that kind of stuff spread. And even if you want to say, well, he didn't mean it like that, he meant it like this, the point is there's a fanatical group that follows him that feeds into that, and that is dangerous for several people. That is dangerous for several groups in this country. And if we're going to say we're moving together and we want to do what's best in the best interest of the country, you can't go, oh, we got to ignore a little racism. You cannot do that. You cannot. I'm not Mexican at all. No part of me is Mexican. But when he said it, I was offended.
You look a little Latino though, Conchita.
But seriously, I was offended. And then I just think that even with the way everybody wants to make the argument of, well, the Obama administration built the cages. Okay. Whatever, I'm not doing that with you. But what I am saying is we're talking about this administration, what they're doing with the cages, and how those children are separated and lost from their parents. You cannot be okay with that. That is not okay.
That's like saying Hitler like saying people built the showers, but they put gas in them, right? Like there were showers maybe to do the wrong thing by people who they were trying to exterminate, but once they turn them into gas chambers, that's a whole different level. That's evil and vile. I mean, what are we talking about here? And listen,
Hero said because he's half black, he don't say us and we. He don't play that racial hack, whatever.
Oh, well, is he a white man? I'll wait till the police stop him and then we'll see what happens. So listen.
I don't listen. I'm not gonna get into all that because I don't risk anybody to be brutalized by anybody.
Well, I'm not wishing for him to be either, but look, we know who wants to claim us when they want to and who don't want to. 1 week he comes in, he wants to talk about how black he is and don't talk about certain things, and the next week he wants to say something different. But I want to talk about the mob for a minute and Trump activating the mob. What also what Professor Vick was just talking about a minute ago. Now when people were passing out in Tampa, the fire department decided to kind of spray people with water. Did you hear that part, Professor? And while they were spraying people with water, trying to keep people cool from passing out, Trump said, "Hey, who is that? I see some water spraying. Are they friend or foe? Because if they're a foe, we're going to handle them." I mean, he was ready, and those people in the crowd were hyped up and riled up, ready to beat down the fire department. You hear me? Of Tampa. people they claim to love, who are trying to help folks out by keeping them cool because Trump's got them out in 100-degree heat passing out. He will work up this mob. This mob is a dangerous mob to this country. And I'm with you, Candace. This is the biggest problem with us. That's why we vote 95% on the other side. We've seen this mob before. This is the same mob we've seen at a local level in our police departments, and the people who stop us from school busing, and the people that stop us from getting into jobs. This is nothing new for Black folks to see this mob. And so the people like Hometown Hero and stuff can't see this mob. That's why we vote for 95%. They don't understand necessarily what we're going through. So that speaks to the issue of where he's disconnected. If he does have some blackness in him, or biracial, or whatever you want to call it, or just a light-skinned Black person, whatever is going on with him, he's missing the context of the full immersion of what it means to be Black in this country, or denying it, which is usually the case. He's denying it, which is usually the case for people like this. It's going on in his life, but he's used it as an individual. Oh, they just don't like me. No, they don't like your skin, and that's what you're missing for the whole point of it. And I'm not saying everybody. Listen, I have to keep putting this number out there here, and so my number is 30%. There's a virulent 30%. It's not the 70% of white folks who could care less, but that virulent 30% has been dangerous to this country for a long time. And we've got to do something about it. Joe Biden's doing something about that. We as a people in America, we were with Black Lives Matter at the beginning, right? Until the subversives came in and the agent provocateurs came in and tried to make Black Lives Matter look bad and move them in a different direction. But we as a nation, I think, are moving in the right direction when it comes to women, when it comes to LGBTQ, moving in the right direction when it comes to inclusion at the behest of exclusion. So I think we're doing that. But we've got to watch out for this mob, like the mob in Tampa, who could be activated at a moment's notice. And Trump has got them, by a death grip. A literal death grip. They are marching to the cold. They are marching to the heat to do whatever this man says. They are dangerous. That's a dangerous 30% of this country, and we've got to do something about it.
I will say this though, Mike, and also not knowing Hometown Hero, never having seen him, only going off of what he said about himself. Be careful, Mike, of talking about his experience. Whatever he is saying, his experience with life, whatever. I get your point though. But what I do want to say.
Can I speak to that? I'm assuming he's a man. I'm making an assumption.
Okay.
And so, as a Black man, you can't be a conscious Black man in America and not talk about your experiences as a Black man in America, getting on an elevator, walking around the street, and how white people in a minority will treat you. I'm not talking about every white person. I'm talking about those women getting on the elevator and looking at you funny, or you being treated differently when you go into a store. This is an experience of every Black man in every situation. And I can speak to that clearly. Every Black man has got that story, unless they're in denial of that story because it's gone on in their lives. I'm just saying, it's part of that.
Right. So I want to read this one particular comment, and I'm sure that it was in response to what I was saying about I can't see myself, being okay with Trump because of what's going on with the kids in the cages and all that. And to that, Kamish responded, "You can't be okay with aborting millions of babies." Kamish, let me help you out. Okay? You cannot say that you are pro-life and then be pro-children living in poverty, pro-children being in cages, pro-people not having autonomy over their body. It is not your place to tell someone they can or cannot get an abortion. If you are that disturbed by abortions, start advocating vasectomy. Start advocating that these men wear condoms. Quit putting the onus on women and quit trying to tell a woman what to do with her body. Stop it.
Here.
high ground, and you're so
Yeah.
concerned with the baby that, but instead you're not talking about the fact that these parents are not getting living wages to take care of these children, that healthcare is not being doled out properly for people to be able to take care of their children, that healthcare costs so much that they're trying to gut healthcare that can help keep these parents here to raise their babies. Stop acting like you care when you have how many children in this country that experience homelessness? If you
Right.
want to talk about being pro-life, deal with the life that is already here and make it better for them.
And look, you're so right, Candace.
let me chime in here, folks. Folks, let me chime in here. Both of you guys are fired up today, I see. I want to go back to the earlier point that one of your viewers, Candace, was making as he was posing a question about Black people and who we vote for and all that kind of thing. We've said this before, right? I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we haven't always voted this way, right? For obvious reasons. I mean, before we were Democrats, we were primarily Republicans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that we're not analyzing the data. It's not that we're not being analytical. We are. But I have to say
Right.
this, though. The Republican Party has to give Black people something to vote for. I mean, what does the Republican Party have that will attract the masses of Black people? Right?
Let me read this comment.
They got to give us something, right? But I think that, folks, having said that, I think that what we're witnessing here is a shift of sorts. I don't think it's a groundswell movement, Mike.
Right.
But it's a certain percentage of Black people, of African Americans who are looking at other options politically, Mike. And I think that even if the Dems win, even if Joe Biden wins this election, I think that they need to address that. Because I'm hearing a louder chorus of voices in the African American community that's raising the question, what have you done for me lately politically, right? To the Democratic Party. Yeah. And I think people are beginning to pivot and they're reassessing their connection to these political parties, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. I think it would be a wise move for Joe Biden to maybe have some kind of a powwow, as it were, with these disaffected voters who have traditionally voted Democrat, particularly Black men, because your sisters, Candace, y'all vote like 95% Democrat, right? So I don't see Black women necessarily making that pivot, although there are some who are doing that. Your namesake, of course, Candace. No pun intended. but this began, I want to say, about 1975, 1980. Remember, a few weeks ago, I raised that point that Cornel West raised about Thomas Sowell, who wrote the book Race and Economics in 1975. Cornel West maintained that Thomas Sowell was making a play for the minds of the African American community. Now, you fast forward 5 years, in 1980, there was a conference that took place referred to as the Fairmount Conference. It was primarily a Black conservative conference, whereby you had leading conservatives such as Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams. You had a number of different persons who were there. Tony Brown, the journalist, was there. A number of other people were there. A number of different thought leaders and opinion leaders and so forth. And I think that we're seeing the residual effect of that. There is a steady movement of people who identify themselves as Black Republicans and conservatives who are raising some issues and raising some points, Mike. And I think that Joe Biden would be better served if he addresses this. Even if he wins, I think he and the Democratic Party needs to address that group, because that drumbeat is getting louder and louder. What do you think?
I think you have a valid point there, Vic, when you say that Black people are saying, what have you done for me lately? And that there's something that, I'm sorry, people keep interrupting my feed, and that they're also looking at the Republican Party saying, what are you offering me? I think you have a valid point. I think that Black people need to ask that all around about for both parties on every level of government. They need to ask that even of Black elected officials. What are we doing? Where are we going? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing to hear my voice? I think we also need to stop saying, well, what's your plan for me, and start telling them, this is how I want to be included in what you're doing. This is not what I agree. Do, but this is what you're going to do. Not me asking, me telling you that this is how you're going to show up for me. I want to read a couple of these comments. And I would love to be shocked, but I'm not. Um, let's see. Hometown Hero said it's not autonomy over their body. That's BS. Are they sucking your body out with a vacuum cleaner or the child with a beating heart? That is anti-science garbage. Does the woman not have a choice not to get pregnant or engage in relations with a man who isn't wearing a condom? So let me get this straight. We have a choice to have sex, but we don't have a choice to have a baby. Stop playing with me. Especially when it comes to a child that man can choose to walk away from at any point that he would like. And then the woman is left with that responsibility. Not only that, but for instance, you want her to have a baby that maybe she can't afford, or bring a child into this world that she doesn't really want. Now you have another child that's abused, neglected, or possibly living in poverty. And even if none of those things were the case, if she decides she does not want to have that baby, that is none of your business. None of your concern. You're not raising the child anyway. You're on YouTube having an opinion about a body that doesn't belong to you.
Well, and I don't want to get too deep in the abortion morass, because it's a gift that keeps on giving to Republicans, right? It is something they are not trying to solve themselves. They've had the House, the Senate, and they don't want to solve it because it's like the black boogeyman for them. They have the trifecta, the so-called fiscal responsibility, which they don't take care of, and they're always running up the deficit, right? But it's perceived because we always perceive that the so-called master is always good for us.
Right.
They also have the other aspect of they try to corner the religious aspects. Although most black preachers are religious and go with the Democratic Party, but they always white evangelicals are the moral ground or whatever. And we see Trump has blown that up too. So we see it for what it is a lot of times, right? So that keeps the abortion people in play. And then the black boogeyman, right? The Latinos, the Mexicans, the Muslims. This is the trifecta that they really never want to solve in the Republican Party, because it keeps on giving, because that hate keeps on giving.
Real quick, Mike. I want to get in here with these comments. He said, so take a life because the man walks, noted, put it up for adoption. Kamish says she can answer to God. That's cool. Then Hometown Hero says, so basically I should have no empathy for beating black hearts that are stopped. What a bogus mindset. So a couple things. Kamish, you are absolutely correct. She can take it up with God. I agree with that. It ain't for her to take it up with me. She absolutely can take it up with God and say she doesn't believe in God. Kamish, then what you doing? Listen, you're grasping at straws here with this. And then Hometown Hero, for you to say, so you should have no empathy for beating black hearts. Are black people the only people that get abortions? White people don't get abortions? Hispanic people don't get abortions? Asian people don't get abortions? Like, stop it. Don't try to use the black card, okay? Every single woman of every single race or whatever on this planet, even though human race is all we got here, but every ethnic group, whatever, they all get abortions too. So stop trying to act like it's just black women. If you only got sympathy for beating black hearts, you're in trouble. What about those white hearts that half of you should care about, Hometown? What's up?
Right, get it. Boom, boom. But you know what? Let me say this. I'm not trying to step into Minister Vic's space, because this is his space for this. But I also want to say with the abortion debate, for me, it always demands, let's play this all the way out, right? Let's say we outlaw abortion tomorrow. And what do we do to ensure that a woman's not getting an abortion, right? What are we prepared to do as a country? Are we prepared to lock up every pregnant woman and ensure that she takes that baby to term? Are we prepared to put women in jail who do get a back alley?
I'm going to tell you what we're prepared to do, Mike. Since you and Hometown Hero, and I'm just saying you because you're a man and you're talking about it, since Hometown Hero is so concerned, Hometown Hero is prepared to be the first person to volunteer for a vasectomy and chemical castration, and he's going to lead the way for all men so that no more babies come into this world. That's what's going to happen. We have figured it out. Hometown Hero and I agree that at this point, men will stop having sex altogether. Men are done having sex. Hometown Hero and I both agree on that.
Let me chime in on this. Let me chime in on this, folks.
Because we don't want to see any more babies. Look, we don't want any more beating hearts stopped. And so in order to make that stop, Hometown Hero and I have decided that men will stop having sex. You guys are done.
Right.
I'll say this, Candace. I'll say this. this is a highly personal issue, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's an issue whereby I'm sure everybody has an opinion on it. But I maintain that I don't have a right to tell a woman what to do with her body, right? With regard to reproductive rights. However, I
Right.
will say this, though. I will say this. This is a conversation that I think doesn't take place openly in our community to the extent that it should or
I
could,
agree. I agree.
especially regarding the history that goes along with that. Because remember, Candace, a couple of years ago, we did a show about eugenics. Remember that?
We did.
We did a show about eugenics,
We did.
and that's a very touchy issue, right? But it's an issue that I think that we need to discuss,
It
particularly as it
actually
relates to
is.
the history of the practice of eugenics and how we were the targets of eugenics,
We are
right?
clear on why Margaret Sanger made Planned Parenthood. We're clear on it. We are
Mhm.
clear on it. And
Well,
my
but
issue
also,
is, stop making it seem like you have a right to tell someone that they have to have a baby.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not saying
Mhm.
that I'm sitting up here telling people, oh, go get an abortion, blah, 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 blah. But what I am saying is you do what you feel you need to do for your life and your body. I'm not in
right.
control of you having to take care of that child, you having to raise
Mhm.
that child potentially being abused or
Mhm.
neglected, that
Mhm.
child growing up to be a Trump supporter. Who needs that? Nobody needs
Yeah.
Oh,
I had to
woo,
throw in a
that's
joke.
cold
I had
blooded.
to throw in a joke. It's a heavy conversation. I had to throw in a joke.
But Candace, to your point, and I think I heard you make reference to this, right?
Right.
We have some groups that maintain that they're pro-life, but what about the other policies? What about the Affordable Health Care Act, which is under fire right now, which the Republicans are trying to repeal and supposedly replace? I don't see a replacement plan. They certainly want to repeal it. And
Right.
this is another issue that I think that we're going to have to address, right? Even if Biden wins this election, we have a new Supreme Court justice. The conservatives
Uh-huh.
have a 6-3 advantage on the court. What are the implications of that?
Yeah.
And then we've been beating this drum also. When we look at the lower federal courts, Trump has placed well over 200 federal judges
200,
on the
yes.
bench.
Mm-hmm.
That's the long-term game, Candace and Mike, that we've been
Yeah.
talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
The Republicans, the GOP party's long-term game is to govern this country through the court system,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
because if the Republican
Yeah.
Party remains demographically the same kind of, if it has the same composition moving forward, they're not going to win open and honest and fair elections.
No,
Which
they can't.
leads me
They
to
can't.
another point. The
Right.
Republicans, and we all know this, they have undertaken a concerted effort to suppress the vote. They're doing this across this country,
Speak on it.
right?
Speak on
And
it.
that's another issue that we're going to have to address and deal with as well moving forward. So I heard it said before, y'all, that politics is warfare without the bullets. And the
Yeah. Yeah.
GOP is proving that. Because
Right.
when they undertake politics, it's warfare. It's a
Right.
form of warfare.
I want to
Yeah.
read this comment really quick. This last comment, we're gonna get off of the abortion topic from here. But Casey said they didn't even want to let white women vote. Yes, they can tell you what to do with your body. Sarcasm. And then Hometown Hero keeps saying proof it's their body. Hometown Hero, if the baby ain't growing inside of her, how else is it getting here? What are you talking about?
Hey, Candace, he on some other stuff. And look, and even just, I'm gonna say my last word about that, and we can move on too.
Okay, all right.
We talk about you talk about abortions being done, but right now, the women who've been snatched up, the Latino women who've been snatched up and put in cages are getting forced hysterectomies.
Oh,
right?
yeah, yes, they are.
And around Georgia and other places. These doctors have been doing that. And let me report to you this. Doctors have been doing that to Black women for a long time. Tying their
Absolutely.
tubes,
Absolutely.
giving them hysterectomies where they don't need it.
Right. Right.
That is getting back to what Brother Vic said. It goes hand in hand with voter suppression, with
Right.
suppression of the race or what have you. All these battles that are being fought little by little, and I know we haven't even addressed the other side of abortion. That is, white women are celebrated for having more babies when Black women are not, right?
Right.
Because there's a perceived racial war going on with these 30% of white folks, not the 70%, but these 30% of white folks who believe there's a race war or trying to start a race war, trying to move in that direction.
There is
So
definitely a different experience and a different there's a different experience in pregnancy when it comes to
yeah,
Black women, white women, and I'm not saying that in all cases, because you do have, and I don't want us to act like there aren't impoverished white families, because again, white women do get abortions for reasons such as they cannot afford children as well, or they just flat out don't want them. And
right.
I listen, and I don't want anybody to mistake this as me saying this is me saying I mind my uterus, okay? But anyway, but there's definitely a different take on it in most instances. And just speaking from a Black experience, nine times out of, well, I'm not going to say 9 times out of 10. I'm going to say a nice chunk of the time, there isn't an excitement that comes along with a pregnancy because you have so many other outside factors. Because
Right.
you have the poverty factor. Because as a Black person, you do feel like I'm crazy for wanting to bring a child into this world that I know doesn't love them. Like, that's the
Right.
reality.
Yes.
Or there is that fear
Yes.
that what if I have a son and things are not better when he gets older? So now I've just brought him into this world so that the police can kill him. Or I brought him into this world so that somebody can discriminate against him.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that those things are going to happen, but that is a real fear based off of real things that have happened.
And look, we can't even, I would be remiss, you know, for me, Candace, a lot of things go back to slavery, about a bunch of women, majority of Black women during slavery who were raped, forced to have children, who weren't theirs, who reminded them every day of this slave master and sits in this situation that. And so, like I said, I'm with Brother Vic on this. This ain't, I don't have a womb, and so this ain't my conversation necessarily. And sometimes as men, we need to step back and let women decide what they want to do in this realm.
So, yeah, but then not only that, then Kamish said, or another Black person can kill them since the odds are greater. Kamish, don't be ridiculous. Crime happens in proximity. If the Black person should grow up with the fear that another Black person is going to kill them, then a white person should grow up with the fear that another white person is going to kill them, either by being a serial killer or a mass murderer. Don't do that with statistics. You don't want to do that.
Guess what? More white people were murdered by white people in America last year than Black people were murdered by Black people. Facts.
Hey, guess what, Mike? Guess what?
What's that?
Murder happens in proximity. So most people are going to be murdered by somebody that looks like them because murder happens in proximity. There's no such thing as Black on Black crime.
Well, what we gonna do? What we gonna do about all this white on white crime?
I'm just saying, murder happens in proximity.
Absolutely.
So do y'all see a correlation here between some of the conversations, the topics we've been discussing, whether it's reproductive rights or whether it's abortion, and the games that the GOP is playing politically, particularly looking at the fact that America's demographics are shifting, and we're looking at the browning of America. Yeah. That is one of the consistent elephants that's in the room, which is driving this nativism, which is driving these immigration policies and whatnot that this country has undertaken. And did you see it in the news? Steve Miller was saying that in the event that they win the election, right, one of Trump's advisors and strategists and so forth, they're going to put forth some even stricter immigration laws in the event of a Trump victory.
I mean, you know, we are dealing with somebody who said implicit bias training was racist.
Exactly.
Right.
And that systemic racism does not exist. If that is not another reason for him not to get my vote, I don't know what is.
Well, look, y'all mentioned it before. Look, brother Professor Vic said, what is the Republican Party doing for us? What are their policies that help us out, right? As Black folks, there's no reason for us to go over there. Black women are intuitively in tune about what's happening with their sons, with their daughters, with themselves at work. Black women are working in these environments, finding hostile environments where the Supreme Court justice says being called the N-word is not a bad thing. Like, what? This is the person y'all put up and have a sham vote and a week before the election? Like, come on, man, we don't need that.
Real quick, I want to read this comment. So Hometown Hero says that keep on saying that trash, Casey. The Constitution protects life and liberty. Life is part of that. So it's the government's role. So it is the government's role to tell you you cannot get an abortion, but it's not their role to tell you to wear a mask to save lives. Help me out, Hometown. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah, they might look. I don't think this is the problem with right wingers, right? They stand on unsolid ground, on shaky ground from just when they first start off with their arguments, right? And then they fall down this rabbit hole of this unshaky ground that they've been dealing with, and their statements don't work out. This is another reason why I can't be a Republican. You have to be a cultist. You have to not deal with science. You have to not deal with factual information. I used to think, listening to Rush Limbaugh when I was a young man, that the grievous people were black people, right? We complain too much. We talk too much. I thought that black people didn't really care about fiscal responsibility. I found that to be different. I thought that black people listening to Rush Limbaugh and the rest of them didn't talk about responsibility or didn't care about the country. We are anti-American. But what I'm finding out, the more Trump is exposing so much in our country about the grievances of white brothers and sisters who are of this 30%. What are they angry about? They're number one in everything that's good and last on everything that's bad. They're the top of the list. Listen, you're the CEOs, you're the company owners, you set the policy, you're doing everything. What are you mad about? Shouldn't it be black people who should be mad about something? And then you tell us we shouldn't be mad. And why are we complaining about a country that we love just as much or more so? I could make a case for that. I don't want to get into that here, but more so than even you do. We've had to fight for every single right that we have in this country. People that look like me and Minister Vic and Candace have had to fight for it. We haven't been given it, but we still love this country dearly without a moment's notice, and we'll go to war for this country that we love. So what is that saying? And what are you saying to us? Continue to tell us that we're not American, and I'm an American as they come with my maize and blue on, and I'm an American. What are you trying to say to me? I'm not going to let you define my Americanism by your twisted logic that goes down into the rabbit hole, which you can't even go on. So you say one thing on one end and another thing on another end because it doesn't match up. Get yourself together, racist ideological right wingers. You're wrong about stuff.
Hey, so Casey, stop trolling my comment section. I do want to get back to, because I think we got so way off. I don't think we ever.
We got way off.
Because what Vic and I, before Deep Blue got on here, what we were trying to do.
We went down the abortion rabbit hole, huh?
No, before the abortion rabbit hole, Mike, we were doing something else. Because what happens is you get on here with this deep blue mentality, you get on here with that awful Michigan shirt, and you just distract everything.
Michigan by 10 against Michigan State.
You listen, Mike. You got a double strike against you right now. Cut it out. What I'm saying is, yeah, I'm done with Hometown Hero and the abortion comment. He's steady trying to argue that it ain't the woman's body, which is what I believe most of those lawmakers are thinking when they think they can tell somebody what to do. You've decided that this isn't this person's body. There's nothing more to talk about. I don't understand how you figure something growing inside of them is not their body, but okay.
But Karen, isn't that the paternalistic? Isn't that the paternalistic mentality that we've been dealing with in our country for a long time? Look, we want to talk about the Constitution. Are we going to go back? Look, if ACB this is what they're calling it right now, right? I got a problem with her being in that space, right? But they're calling her ACB, a la RGB, and disparaging her the name of Ruth Ginsburg. They call her ACB. That's what they're doing right now. Amy Coney, they call her the great ACB. But here's a woman that says the N-word doesn't matter. Here's a woman who says she doesn't have opinions, or she's an originalist. If she's an originalist, what does that mean for women who didn't have the right to vote when the Constitution was made? What does that mean for black people who are three-fifths of a person? I even have a fight with people who are talking about they're originalists, and that only applies to so-called right-wingers. It doesn't apply to Democrats who understand the Constitution can't be looked at as an original document all the time. That's why we have a Supreme Court, fool, to determine how we can move with certain things, and it is movable and things of that nature. That's why we have amendments and a way to make amendments to the Constitution, because it is not an original document that we look at just in the way that it is.
So, Mike, I want to go back to a point that you made just a couple of minutes ago as it relates to the Republican Party being the grievance party. I think that's a great point, right? And
right.
and I think that when we look at that and we couple that with Trump's position that there cannot be any talk about racism or systemic racism in the governmental level, because he came out with this presidential edict which said so. So that's problematic, right? Both of those issues are problematic, because we're not going to turn a corner in this country unless we have some honest dialogue about what is taking place in this country from a historical standpoint, and even presently as it relates to the existence of racism, of systemic racism, of mass incarceration, and the issue of law enforcement, of police brutality, right? We got to address all these various issues, right? And bring them, put them in the forefront and put it on the table. Unless and until we have these discussions, we're going to continue to get what we've been getting all along. Period. Right?
Well, look, 70% of white brothers and sisters want to have this conversation, Brother Vic and Candace. They want to have this conversation. But the 30% are beating them upside the head and not allowing them to let America move forward. I pretend that we would have colonies on Mars, we would have colonized the moon, were it not for racism in the world. I mean, when you have to imprison people and enslave folks, you're also a prison guard. So it keeps you in that one space, not moving yourself and moving forward. If we're talking about freedom of your body, freedom of people to be who they are, freedom against brutality and things of that nature, we can.
Mike, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
Hey, ain't that the First Amendment? They like to talk about the Second Amendment, but ain't that the First Amendment, right? Right?
Absolutely.
But that's the first one we get. And so those freedoms that we don't allow, we have not historically allowed, freedom to vote freely. I mean, this is going on right now as we speak. That virulent 30% is stopping people, but that 70% is out there fighting, and they're getting beat upside the head. You got to go home as a white brother and sister and argue with your crazy uncle, a hometown hero, at Thanksgiving. Who wants to go home and argue like that? Man, I want to eat Thanksgiving dinner with grandma. I ain't got time to be arguing with this fool on Thanksgiving. But you have to, because these folks are shaping the narrative in a negative fashion and putting out think about what Trump has done to the vision of America around the world. He has destroyed the vision of America around the world for his own thing. And this is what the Uncle Hometown Hero does to the 70% of white brothers and sisters who want to go home and eat Thanksgiving dinner. He destroyed the whole family for his own little small-minded aspects of what he wants to be. That is destructive for us moving forward as Americans. That's destructive for us moving forward as nations, and that's destructive for us moving forward as a planetary species.
It's
destructive.
I agree. Is Candace still here? Is Candace still here?
Yeah. I mean, we
pose this question, y'all. I like to pose this question, all right, Mike and Candace, given everything that we've just said about the freedoms, about the Constitution, the rule of law, even, right? Democracy appears to be on the respirator, right? Democracy is on the respirator, and what are the implications of that, Mike and Candace? What are the implications of that?
Look, when Canada and France are holding up democracy better than we are, and we're supposed to be the beacon of light, that's a problem. That's a problem in the world. And we better get our act together as Americans. And let me say this, like I said again, I keep saying it, that 30% does not care about America. Uncle Hometown Hero only cares about the narrative of white racism, systemic racism. They don't care about moving America forward or moving the planet forward. And we as Democrats, we better wrap our minds around that. Your Uncle Hometown Hero, when you go to Thanksgiving dinner, ain't about keeping the family together. And we got to really come to grips with that, because we love Uncle. We want Uncle to be prosperous. We want Uncle to come to Thanksgiving dinner and love on Mom, and we want to love on Uncle. But it's a bad problem when we have these bad seeds in our family who want to sow chaos instead of try to come together and push people forward. And look, and as Black folks, we have that in our own families, right? We have these individuals in our extended families, our made-up families, our work families, people we want to try to move the ball forward, and they're destructive in our processes and not bringing other people in and not being inclusive, but being exclusive. Black people got to get away from this exclusivity too as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the thing. I thought Kamish was gone, but I'm happy that Kamish is back. Kamish, I just want to say to you that I liked you up until about a few comments ago when you made that comment about U of M winning by like 30 points. Kamish, come on. You have got to choose better with your sports teams. Okay?
Well,
you've got
well, at least me
the
and
one
Kamish
time,
agree on something.
that I will tell you, Kamish, that your opinion is wrong. It's wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Yeah, at least me and Kamish agree on something. See that's the middle ground, Kamish. We can work from there.
Never mind. He's back. He's back. He said he doesn't like U of M. He likes MSU. He's back. Never mind. Never mind.
Oh,
We're good.
okay.
We're good.
Oh, right. Y'all know Candace is Ohio State, but she has to vicariously live through Michigan State through.
I don't have to vicariously live through anybody because my team always wins. So I don't need to vicariously live. That would be the life of your team. Your team has to go back. Wait, your team has to go back and watch old game day footage from back about 10 years ago when they won. And then not only that, but all the fans of your team have to be historians, because that's the only way that they can recall a victory or talk about a victory is if they talk about the history. Oh, when they go, let's pull up all-time wins. Oh, we can talk about all-time wins, but let's also talk about the fact that you haven't won any time lately. Let's talk about that.
Well, and Candace, so can I connect these two dots? Listen.
Oh, wait, 1 second. One more thing, Mike. One more thing. I think Kamish might be one of my favorite people because he just said I like Ohio State more than Michigan. So.
Oh my God! Come on, Kamish, you lost me right there. You lost me. Listen.
Good job, Kamish. Good job.
I want to try to connect these two things. You know what? You spoke about something that is factual, Candace.
Okay.
All right. So I had a friend named Adam Viney, and 10, 15 years ago, I'd get on the phone and I'd be talking trash, and I knew that we could win, or Ohio State could win. It was up in the air, whoever could win. But the last 10 years, I ain't called Adam because I ain't got nothing to say, right? Now, because effectively, we've been getting our butts handed to us by Ohio State. Now, if I was like Hometown Hero and some of the other people, I would deny these facts and keep talking about how great Michigan is with football. Instead of looking inside ourselves and saying, look, we got to change some things. New coaching, new processes. If we got to start paying people like Ohio State do, we'll do that. You know, we got to, whatever we got to do to win, we'll do that. But this is what it looks like when you have to make sure that you pretend to move forward with factual information. We've been losing Michigan. Yeah, we can talk about hoop. We can talk about other sports, but right now in football, Ohio State has been handing our butts to us. Those are the facts. And here are the facts. America's got to move forward with inclusion, not exclusion. And if we don't adhere to that, we're going to be dealing just like Michigan is and be perennial losers as a country, while Canada and China and even Russia, to some extent, some notion, France and Great Britain has our lunch. And we've got to move forward and have every cylinder, Black cylinders, Latino cylinders, every cylinder firing on one. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hey, Vic. If this man has done nothing else, he has earned the nickname Deep Blue. Because did you see how he sent that to where he needed it to go? He was like, I
Absolutely.
got it. I got it. Did you speak?
Absolutely.
Did you see that? Did you
Yeah,
see
I
that,
saw
man?
that. I saw it. I saw it.
Well,
Even with the sports analogies, right?
Hey, Mike, I'm not even mad at that. I'm actually quite impressed with that. Go ahead, Mike.
Because oftentimes I don't enter into these football debates, but I gotta say this, Candace, you're right, man. Michigan they're living in the past, man. It's 10
right.
yards in
I
a
agree.
cloud of dust. When are they gonna come into the 21st century with their football program, Mike?
Well, listen.
It's a relic. It's a relic
Well,
of the past. It's
hold
almost as
on.
if O'Shea Backler is back on the sidelines.
All right, so can I
Pick
speak to
up the
that too?
football and throw it down the field.
Yeah, look, can I speak?
I
Can
don't
I
get
speak
it.
to that?
Or Ohio
Can I speak
State
to
will continue to
that?
dominate.
Can I speak to that? Can I speak to that? Listen, here's the problem. Michigan, we're such purists, just like some of the people in the Democratic Party. I gotta have Joe Biden gotta be just like this, and this is why we continue to lose. And we're not look, Miami of Ohio, Florida State, Ohio State. Even when we talk about your boy in Alabama and the rest of the folks, listen, we got to learn how to play the game. And the game nowadays is recruit, pay them under the table, get them there by
Pay him
we
under the
got to play
table.
the game,
You
man.
sound like a GOP now, Mike.
Wow.
It's
You
about
sound
winning.
like Trump. You sound like Trump.
Vic,
Hold
Vic,
on,
that's
wait a
what I
minute.
was waiting on. Vic, that's what I was waiting on because I keep telling you the same way you have those Trumpsters who are going to go hard for Trump no matter what. Mike
Yeah.
does it the same way,
No
but
doubt.
he just has a
No
blue
doubt.
cover on. I was waiting for it, Mike.
By any
I was
means
waiting for
necessary.
it.
Hold on. But what I'm saying to you purists who believe the Democratic Party has to be some pure thing that you have to fall in love with and everything has to be perfect, don't stop looking for that. This is why we keep losing. And if you want to keep losing, listen, our great congressman, Dan Kildee, says we have to start being comfortable with being losers all the time. We're being comfortable with being dogmatic or pragmatic losers. You can't have that. We've got to move forward now. And we've got to make sure the game is changed. Voter suppression is part of the thing. Listen, ballot boxes. They put up ballot boxes in California. Do y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And nobody's been prosecuted. Hey, guess what? Now the president can talk to the attorney general and make him go arrest people. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is now, right? Now in an election year, you can appoint somebody to the Supreme Court while people are voting. Oh my God! Listen, these people are this is what's going on. We got to do something about this Democrat.
Listen, sometimes you just gotta sit back and watch because it's like, really? Okay.
No doubt, right? No doubt.
We are 4 days out from the election, so go blue.
Go blue, baby, blue. Like say, 3 yards in the car of bus don't work for us no more. We got to start moving that ball around, throwing that ball, passing everywhere. We got to bring Latinos on board. We got to bring white women on board in the suburb. We got to bring everybody all to pass. And hold on, let me say this. We're doing that. That's one of the reasons why it's tough for Republicans right now. They're having a tough time. Listen, people want to keep talking about 2016. Nobody's talking about 2018 when the Republicans were wiped out in places in Texas. This is why, look, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden just left Texas and Georgia. Yeah. All right?
Oh, yeah.
Brother Vic, you talk about Nebraska, right? Where Trump was at, trying to get that one electoral vote. One!
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
In Nebraska, where he left people stranded and in the freezing cold, right? That's a figurative statement of his party and what they are. They'll leave you stranded for the one. Stranded for the one because there's one single-minded, like an amoeba mindset. And this is what these people are about. They got the blinders on, they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and they got on a red hat. You better get out their way because they're dangerous to this country.
All right. So, the election Tuesday, people are going to go to the polls in person to vote in the general election. It's going to happen. They're going to do it. Tuesday is going to mark a change in one way or another for this country.
Yeah.
30 seconds, Mike. Go.
Look, we got to vote. If we get 4 more years of Trump, mark my words, this country will fall. I think some people are wanting that. Some people understand they want to equate us with Rome, but we've got to stand up as Americans. We've got to do the right thing and save democracy at its core. Yeah, you may not be like Joe Biden, but right now we got to roll with him. This is the fourth quarter. This is the last minute of the fourth quarter. Go vote blue. Go vote deep blue for the weekend. Give Halloween candy to the kids and trunk or treats at the Flint Development Center and other places around the country. Let's make sure we do right by them. They should not have to suffer because of Trump's madness with this COVID-19. Let's try to make sure we do something for the kids.
Vic, go.
I gotta say this, man. What has Mike taken today, man? Mike's energy level is on 12
he took
on a scale of 10.
Because he took a nap. He woke up refreshed.
I did take a nap, man. No doubt about that. I usually don't take a nap.
Like the energizing bunny and carrying on,
yeah,
man.
I took a nap.
Here's my point, folks. We've got to be, as citizens of this country, we've got to be active rather than being passive. Yes, we are the leaders. When you look into that proverbial mirror, we are the leaders that we're looking for. That person will never lead you in the wrong direction. But in addition to that, we can't just sit back and be a wayfarer on the sidelines. We've got to infuse ourselves into the political process and hold these politicians and these so-called leaders accountable for what they do. And if they don't fall through, if they don't do what you're asking them to do, requesting them to do, then throw the bum out of office. And you can do that by casting your vote on Tuesday. Peace.
All right, and I guess I'm just going to close with we are 4 days out from an election, and I agree with the fact that we, the people, have the power. We, the people, are the ones whose voices need to be heard. We need to be concerned with everyone that is inhabiting this country, everyone that lives here. We need to make sure that they are safe, that it is a fair and a just country for everyone, that we are not divided, and that we can move forward together, and that we will not be destroyed after this election, that we do not vote in a way that is a detriment to us, that we do not vote against ourselves and our best interests, that we do not allow Trump to stay president. Vote. Vote, 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 vote. We are out of here. We'll see you next week.